On today's episode, we're finishing the interior. That means we're installing lights, our Unistrut, and our new Gen 2 bamboo ceiling. Stay tuned. Hey everybody, Matt here for AVC, and welcome back to the shop. Like we said in the intro, today we're going to be finishing off the interior base package here, which means we're going to be installing the ceiling and doing all of our light wiring. So we're going to be over at the CNC. We're going to be cutting this bamboo ceiling for our Gen 2 wall kit system. It's a little bit different because it bolts into our skeleton system here. So it's a different ceiling kit than we've used in the past. Normally we screw these into place. Then we're going to be doing a quick sand and a clear coat on this. We just use a water-based clear coat. Then we're going to be putting in our lighting system, LED puck lights. We're going to be wiring everything to the ceiling before we bring it back here into the van, get it installed, and get all of our wiring done behind this wall. This is just one episode in a build series. We're building our 2025 show van. So if you haven't subscribed yet, go ahead and hit that subscribe button so you can follow along with this entire build series. And if you want to get a professional build done by AVC, there's a link in the description below. So hit that up and our team will reach out and get your build started. With all that YouTube blabber out of the way, let's go ahead and get to work. So today we're going to be working with our Ceiling Kit 2.0. And the difference between our 2.0 ceiling and our 1.0 ceiling is the 2.0 is designed to bolt into our skeleton framing system. So if you look at this, there's a few more holes in this ceiling patterning that we don't have in our 1.0 kit, mainly these little pill shapes here. And that's for our 1/4-20 fasteners to bolt into the ceiling skeleton kit. Now we still have our 8mm bolt locations like this that we can bolt our Unistrut into. And on the one that we cut here in the shop for us, we have a 2-inch hole, and that's to accommodate our new lighting in the shop. When we send these out as a DIY, they just have a 1/2-inch lighting or a 1/2-inch hole here for your lighting. That way you can choose whatever kind of light you want, because everybody has a different idea of what the lighting is best for their van. Now the 2.0 is going to be available in felt, it's going to be available in Baltic birch, available in underlayment, and it's available in bamboo if we want to do that too. Today we have this. This is a bamboo plywood panel. The brand is called Plyboo. This is a 1/4-inch bamboo plywood, and it's solid bamboo. So it's real wood. We can sand this thing down. We're not going to sand through a veneer, anything like that, which means it's really durable and easy to use here in the shop. Now, in preparation for today's video, we did CNC this out. We did the rough CNC, then we sanded everything down, got it all nice. We coated both sides with a water-based satin finish, and then we did a spray coat on the face here that's going to face into the van, just because it gives us a little bit better even finish over everything. So the ceiling is now prepped, done, and cured, and we're ready to move on to our lighting. So let's talk about lights. The LED light we are installing today is going to be made by Ace Goo. Now these are a 2 3/4-inch puck light, and they were popularized by Far Out Ride. So big thanks to Far Out Ride. They have an awesome channel, and when we were getting started, we learned a lot. These lights are really nice, especially with our modern lithium systems, because they push out a little bit higher voltage. We used to use these really thin puck lights, and they didn't like to deal with the higher voltage. So we had to put voltage regulators in, stuff like that. Anyway, we phased those out. So if you've seen our older lighting video, we have shown those as a different option. We went through a few different lighting options, but we've kind of settled on these as the preferred light of choice. Now, cool thing about these is that they just pop in with these little spring clips. So no need for hardware, anything like that, which means changing one in the future is really easy too. But let's take a look at some of the other items we're going to be using in today's video. We're going to be wiring everything up with some 16-gauge wiring. So all these are super low amp draw, so 16 gauge is more than enough. We're going to be wiring all these things up, and then we're going to be bringing them all over to the driver's side. And to do all of that wiring, we're going to be using some Wago lever nuts. So these are really great ways to connect wiring in your van. They are becoming more and more popular over the years here, and I think in our last video we actually used these. We used to use butt splices and crimp everything together, but these actually make for an easier repair in the future down the road if you needed to. And with those 3 things, that's really all that's required to put this together. We are going to be using some vice grip wire strippers. All these things are available on our Amazon storefront, so if you want to hit that link in the description, you can order up some for your van. Just like that. So when we're wiring all these lights up, we want to make sure we give a little bit of extra room for the wiring. If we get everything tied up really tight, and one of these lights goes out in the future, if we remove it, we don't have any slack to pull it out and actually change that wire. So we always like to leave a bit of a pigtail, and you can see that over here. So we have this much of a pigtail on this light. So in the future, if I had to pull this down, I don't have to take the entire ceiling down. I can pull this down, I can unwrap my Wago, I can swap the light and put everything back together. It's going to take me about 5 minutes rather than 2 hours. Okay. So we cut our length of wire here just as long as both of our whips on these lights and left it this long. So let's go ahead and strip this down, and we'll get our Wagos attached here. So a couple of great things about these Wagos is they're really easy for connecting multiple sizes of wire. So here off this light is probably a 20 gauge wire, and I'm wiring up a 16 gauge to it. And because they go into independent bays, these wire inside here and they link up, and there's no issue with different sizes in there. Then when we get these wired together, I like to put a simple piece of electrical tape around the outside of them. That just keeps those lever nuts from popping up on us. And I've seen these more and more inside of OEM manufactured items, and I see the Wagos all taped up inside those OEM pieces. So that's where I kind of got this idea from, but they just needed something to kind of help support that. Okay. So we'll get those two taped together, and then just for cleanliness here in the van, we're going to tape the two together. Okay. Cool. So there's one wire done. Then we can tape this just to secure the wiring out of place. To do that, I like to use some duct tape or Gorilla Glue tape here. Electrical tape isn't going to be sticky enough for this, but duct tapes are flammable, so you can't use them for electrical. So I can put this one here, tape it down. I like to keep all my wires in between my lights so that it's an expected area for that lighting to be, or the wiring to be. If you have them all going diagonal places around the interior, it's hard to expect where your wires are going to be in the future. Then if you happen to put a screw into the ceiling for some reason, you might hit a wire. So if you keep them in straight lines between the lights as best as possible, keeps it like a very predictable wiring layout on top of your ceiling. Another cool thing about these Wagos is they're available in doubles, triples, and in a 5-plex. So if we needed to connect 3 wires into one section, we can do that. And we're going to do that here right now. So it just makes a super clean way to get all these things together. It's also nice to bridge, like let's say you're wiring a couple of USBs together, but you just have one power circuit. This can act as like a bus bar, basically, for a couple of those USBs. Just makes wiring things so easy. So if you're not familiar with Wagos, I highly recommend you order some and make the shift. Okay. Double check that. Yep, that looked good. Okay, so on this ceiling panel here in the middle, we're going to need to bring our wiring from our passenger side over to our driver's side to get to our control panel. Now, because we have that ceiling framing kit right here through the center, that means I can't put crossover wires on my ceiling panel itself. So we're going to make a longer whip here, and this is going to get fed through our framing kit and over to our control panel location once we get installing those. So we made this one up. I'm going to go ahead and get the other side wired up and ready to go, and then we can jump in the van and get the ceiling installed. So our ceiling is completely wired now, and we're ready to get into the van and install the ceiling. But before we do, let's do a couple of things. First, we want to test our lights to make sure everything is working properly. So to do that, I just have a simple 12-volt battery here off of one of my Milwaukee drills. It's a 12-volter, which is nice. A lot of my DeWalt's and Makitas are 18 volts, so we can't do this with those. But we use this here to just do some simple testing on here. And I can see that, okay, my driver's side middle is lighting up. You can actually see the lights here. Through here, you can see that they're lighting up, so we know that that's working. Okay, so there's one. Do the same thing here. Okay, both of these are lit up, so those look good. We got our rear zone here over the bed. Yep, that one looks good. And front zone here. And both of those are lighting up. Cool. All right. So now we can label these wires, and we have wired all these ceiling panels into zones. So here at the very front of the van, over the top of my driver-passenger swivel seat and the 2 kid seats in the back, I'm going to have one front zone just to light up that area. If we're playing games or something like that, someone's sleeping in the back, we can light up this area and not the other. Then in the middle panel here, this is going to be over the top of our kitchenette. So I have a middle zone here. So this is going to be mid-cabin. And then in the very back here, over the top of the bed, we have our rear cabin zone. So we're going to have 3 zones of lighting in this van, which seems a little excessive, but we added some lights at the very front, and I didn't want to always have to light up the kitchen if I want to light up the dining area in the front. And I always like having I always like having dimmable lights over the top of the bed area, so I can keep that nice and chill and dark and kind of make a cup of coffee in the morning without waking up the kids. So with our zone lighting laid out, let's go ahead and label these wires. Then we can get this ceiling into the van, get it installed, and get all of our wires run to our control panel location. So our pre-wire is complete and we are ready to go. I'm going to grab some tools and I will meet you in the van. There you go.
Lights coming down.
So we're here in the back of the van and we got our first rear panel up. So we want to start with the center bolts because these are not pills and these are going to kind of force your panel into alignment here at the back. And we'd like to start at the back because it's easier to get everything started from this back edge and work our way forward. The front, because it has this contoured shape, it's going to be a little bit more challenging and it's easier to start back here and line things up to the squared out panels here at the back. But now that we have this panel up, it's just in with the 1/4-20s. So those are super easy. Don't overdrive them. So I just have a mechanical screwdriver here we can use. We just don't want to get them ultra tight, but as soon as everything up here is settled and tight, we can route our wiring for that light. We're going to route it through the opening here in our skeleton, behind our wall to ceiling support, through this opening, and we're just tucking all of our wires right here. They're going to be for our control panel. So this middle panel, because we have to wire it past the skeleton here, is a little bit different. We ran 2 pigtails for this, so I'm just going to run my passenger side pigtail over the top of my skeleton here. Then I can continue on and I'll get it inside my wall to ceiling support now. Then I can worry about pulling any extra slack that we might have up after the fact.
How much more would the extended version of the felt wall kit?
Yeah. I think this has got to go first, huh?
I wouldn't drive it too much. Some of these I kind of had to chase the thread.
Yeah. Copy. Our entire ceiling is now mounted in place, and we're going to be pulling some of the hardware on these outer supports so we can be installing our Unistrut on the ceiling. Now, we install Unistrut in the ceilings of our vans so they can support our overhead cabinets. This is our retention system for all of our cabinetry, and that's what these big holes here are for. So all these big holes line up with an 8mm insert that we've added to the van itself, and that's what all of this Unistrut bolts into. We sell 3 different types of this Unistrut. We sell one for the rear of the van back here that has spacing for the factory inserts, high and low. We sell one for the front of the van that we're going to be using down below or up here that's going to match to the front inserts here. And then we sell one for the ceiling. The ceiling is 92 inches long, and that it mounts to all 4 of the roof nuts here in a 148 long body. We also sell these 3D printed end caps that kind of clean up the ends of the Unistrut. So here on the passenger side, we're not going to be mounting any cabinetry. So this isn't going to have anything blocking the ends of it. So we're going to be adding the 3D printed end caps on this side. But this side over here, it's going to be buried underneath some overhead cabinets, so no need to have the expense of those end caps on that one. So Dilly is going to jump inside the van. We're going to start pulling the hardware. We're going to use some of these like drywall jacks that are going to hold the roof up, hold everything under tension. We'll pull the hardware out and we'll get this installed. Our Unistrut is installed in place, and the last step is going to be installing this 3D printed trim cap. Now, if you look back here, you can see that it has a cool AVC lean tree logo. These are 3D printed right here in Loveland, Colorado by our friends at Avid PD. There's also a little made in Colorado and AVC rig hidden inside. Some of that stuff you couldn't really do with injection molding, but since they're printed on an HP Fusion jet, it's a pretty cool technology, and they make a very robust part. So to do this, we're actually using a self-tapping screw today because we have that aluminum strut kit behind it. So we're just gonna line it up with that pill-shaped hole at the back of the Unistrut, push it into place. And tighten it up. If you made it this far, thanks for watching. Go ahead and hit that like button if you learned something today. If you have a question about our ceiling, about bamboo products, about our Unistrut, anything like that, hit us up in the comments below and we'll definitely take care of you. Otherwise, we'll see you on the next episode. Bye.